Alright, well, in my last video I was going over how to make a kind of an inverted mold for coasters. And I ran out of good silicone, and I'm not going to bother with bad silicone, so here we are. I'm just going to use the mold that I originally made and this mold that I subsequently made. And I'm going to be using a quick coat epoxy, which honestly is probably going to bubble, but I don't really care right now. There are pros and cons to working with the UV resin. Pro, It's great at doing things like this. This is entirely made with UV resin. I did make a few pieces and then glue them back into place with the resin. But, you know, it works well for that. It has its uses if you are making it into a big pile. Like that, everything in there is UV resin. So it's about this thick. The problem is you really have to let it cure between layers or it's going to warp the thicker it gets. So do your 1/4 inch, you know, or not your 1/4 inch, do your 1/8 of an inch. And then when you get up to about 1/2 of an inch, stop curing it. Let it cool off because it gets hot and that's what causes the warp. Also, the closer your light is to it, the more you're going to, you know, mess things up. It'll cure this part, make it really hot, and then leave a divide here, which does work well for what I did. As you can see, there's like a little warp in the middle. It stayed discolored, which I like because it makes it look, let me get it out of the light. It makes it look like you're actually looking in the water. And I was able to tilt it at different angles and get the sand where I wanted, so that star is mostly buried. You can still see parts of it. This one only has a little bit of burial, and then I put a little bit of sand in some of these shells. So I wanted it to look like water that's not still, but moving in a tide motion. But the UV resin's not the best for this. All right, base layer aside, I'm going to show you everything you need to do to assemble one of these and get it ready for using a deep pour epoxy resin. Now with this, you want to put your UV resin in first and then drop the sand in and orient it however you need. That eliminates, you know, as many air bubbles as possible. And just sprinkle the sand until you get what you need. Once you have this piece assembled and set, put it in, make sure that it's actually the exact location it needs to be in. I'm doing that now because some of this is real tricky. And you want to get that ring on. That part's important. Now I need to adjust this one more time off camera. Just to make sure, because this thing is like cutting it to the wire. This is going to be almost there we go. Almost touching the top, really. Okay. And then I got this piece. You saw me make the mold. I broke it off so that it would be kind of appearing to come from the edge. And there we go. Now you need to pour in your resin. This is going to be the fast forward part. Here's the finished product. I think overall it's not 100% clear, but there's no weird waves on it or anything. I think overall this one did come out better, and it's about 75–80% what I expected. So I think moving forward, if I were going to try a project like this again, I would be using the UV light to hold things down, get things in place with the UV resin, and then using this stuff, actual resin like normal people would use of the epoxy line to finish things up. But yeah, let me see. You can see the difference. This one does tend to come out more clear, the UV resin, but the overall results are better with the epoxy.